Bird and Kip, Good at Flying, Episode 1, Bird's Adventure.
Yummy pretzels!
Bird said. Bird was on the sidewalk. She was eating food scraps. A cat sneaked up on Bird.
Meow! Oh no!
Bird cried. The cat jumped. Crash! Bird banged into a wall. Bird was dizzy.
Ouch!
The cat ran toward her.
Ah!
Bird was trapped in a corner. Bird tried to fly around the cat.
Meow!
The cat grabbed Bird's foot.
Ah!
Bird cried.
Whiskers!
A woman shouted.
Bad cat!
The cat let go of Bird. Bird flew fast.
Phew!
Kip came out of his den. Mrs. Crow was walking by. She said.
I'm looking for shiny things.
Suddenly, Bird flew down. She told Kip all about the cat.
Wow, Bird.
Kip said.
I'm glad you're safe.
Mrs. Crow said.
Cats can't catch me! Bird, you're bad at flying!
Bird and Kip, Good at Flying, Episode 2, The Flying Contest. Bird frowned.
I'm good at flying.
Mrs. Crow laughed.
A cat caught you!
The cat was fast.
Bird said.
Cats can't catch me!
Mrs. Crow said. Bird stomped her foot.
Let's have a flying contest.
Fine!
Mrs. Crow said. Everyone gathered in the park. Mrs. Crow swooped up and down. Good job, honey, Mr. Crow said. Bird flew in a perfect loop. Kip clapped.
Woohoo, Bird!
Everyone cheered. Then Bird and Mrs. Crow raced. Mrs. Crow zoomed ahead of Bird. Bird gulped.
Mrs. Crow is fast.
Suddenly, Mrs. Crow landed.
Something shiny!
She cried. It was a piece of foil. Mrs. Crow picked up the foil. She smiled.
So shiny!
Just then, Bird flew over Mrs. Crow.
Maybe I'll win.
Bird thought. Then she gasped. The cat was sneaking up on Mrs. Crow. Bird and Kip, Good at Flying, Episode 3, Bird the Hero. The cat crept behind Mrs. Crow.
Look out!
Bird cried. But Mrs. Crow didn't hear her.
Ah! Ah!
Mrs. Crow said.
I love shiny.
The cat grabbed Mrs. Crow.
Ah!
Mrs. Crow cried. Bird flew down fast.
Bad cat, Whiskers.
The cat gasped. Bird knew its name. It let go of Mrs. Crow. Bird and Mrs. Crow flew away.
Thanks.
Mrs. Crow said. Bird grinned.
Let's forget about the contest.
Mrs. Crow nodded.
That's fine.
What will you do with the foil?
Bird asked.
You'll see.
Mrs. Crow said. Later, Bird told Kip about the adventure.
Wow, Bird!
Kip said.
You're a hero!
Bird laughed. Mrs. Crow flew over. She handed Bird a medal. It was made of foil.
You're good at flying!
Mrs. Crow said.
No,
Bird said.
we are good at flying.
Everyone laughed.